Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the dark, highly documented, and honestly astonishing history of exactly why the CIA decided to test LSD on human subjects. For decades, the true scope of this program was totally buried. But right now, relying entirely on declassified government documents, historical records, and investigative reports, we're going to dig into the motivations, the methods, and the sheer madness behind a decades-long effort to essentially hack the human mind.
Let's kick things off with a number that is just staggering: 100 million. Back in 1953, the CIA actively considered purchasing enough LSD for 100 million doses. We're talking about trying to buy 10 kilograms of the drug from Sandoz Laboratories in Switzerland. But why, right? Why on earth would a US intelligence agency want a literal monopoly on a newly discovered, incredibly potent hallucinogen?
Section 1. The Cold War Paranoia.
To really understand why they wanted such a massive stockpile, we have to ask ourselves, what could possibly drive a government agency to conduct such extreme, covert experiments on its own people? Well, they were driven by a very specific, intense set of fears. The intelligence community was, frankly, terrified. First off, there was this widespread belief that communists were successfully brainwashing U.S. prisoners of war in Korea. Second, they were getting these alarming reports that the Soviet Union was trying to buy up the world's LSD supply before they could. Add to that the loss of the U.S. nuclear monopoly and this deep-seated paranoia that foreign spies had somehow penetrated the highest levels of the CIA itself. They felt incredibly vulnerable, and they believed they desperately needed a new weapon. And this sheer panic sparked a massive snowball effect of interrogation programs. It actually started back in 1943 when the OSS, which was the precursor to the CIA, began searching for a truth drug. By 1947, the Navy initiated Project Chatter, which included early LSD tests. Then in 1950, the CIA launched Project Bluebird, which they renamed Artichoke in 1951. Finally, all of this paranoia culminated in 1953 with the official authorization of Project MKUltra.
Section 2. The Quest for Mind Control.
So under MKUltra, the CIA was literally hunting for the holy grail of human behavior modification. Authorized by Director Alan Dulles, it became their highly classified principal program for chemical and biological research. Headed up by a chemist named Sidney Gottlieb, the agency started pouring millions into figuring out how to influence, control, and extract information from the human mind.
Now, what exactly were they trying to do? The goals were startlingly specific and honestly incredibly aggressive. Sure, they wanted a perfect truth serum for Cold War interrogations, but they also wanted to induce amnesia to wipe minds clean and protect their own secrets. They actively sought substances to promote illogical thinking and impulsiveness to discredit people. And, believe it or not, they even aimed to create an involuntary Manchurian Candidate-style assassin. To make all this happen, Sidney Gottlieb needed a potent catalyst. So, he spent $240,000, which, to put into perspective, is equivalent to over $4 million today, to secretly buy up the world's available supply of LSD from that Swiss laboratory we mentioned earlier. With this vast stockpile secured, Gottlieb had exactly what he needed to distribute the drug across clinics, prisons, and hospitals just to see what it could do.
Section 3. LSD in unwitting subjects.
At first, early tests involved voluntary U.S. military personnel in clinical labs. But MKUltra researchers quickly realized that clinical settings didn't really reflect the stress of real-world espionage. So they dramatically shifted tactics to an unwitting phase. They specifically started targeting demographics who, as one agency officer coldly put it, could not fight back. We're talking about mental patients, prisoners, prostitutes, and everyday citizens. The scale of the abuse that followed is just horrifying. Declassified files show extreme examples of this unwitting experimentation. Human subjects were given LSD for up to 77 days straight. In the case of one mental patient in Kentucky, it was 174 consecutive days, and absolutely zero informed consent was obtained for any of this.
There's this one brutally honest quote from a CIA official that just hits the nail on the head regarding their motives. They viewed the human mind as a battlefield to be conquered, explicitly stating their goal was to gain control of bodies whether they were willing or not. It's incredibly chilling when you read it out loud.
To push this research even further into real-world scenarios, the CIA went from operatives safely taking notes in a lab to setting up something called Operation Midnight Climax. They literally used CIA safe houses operating as brothels in San Francisco, totally equipped with one-way mirrors. Unsuspecting men were covertly dosed with LSD and observed by agents.
The rationale? They figured the men would be way too embarrassed to ever report such a bizarre event to the authorities.
Section 4. Exposure and destroyed records.
Ultimately, a totally illegal operation of this magnitude, spanning over 80 institutions, just couldn't stay completely hidden forever. Ironically, though, after decades of shattered lives, the CIA eventually realized their grand chemical solution was a complete dud. Researchers finally concluded that LSD was simply way too unpredictable to ever be a reliable weapon for mind control or interrogation, and they essentially abandoned it.
What's really fascinating is that a specific memo from November 1953 actually survived the eventual destruction of the program's files. It shows a CIA official impounding LSD material in a safe and ordering an immediate halt to all LSD tests under CIA auspices. This proves that even in the very early days of the program, the extreme dangers of the drug caused internal panics, major safety concerns, and temporary shutdowns. And yet, the wider MKUltra program kept going for almost 2 more decades.
So how did it all fall apart? Well, the formal unraveling happened in stages. In 1963, an inspector general finally discovered the unwitting testing. By 1972, Sidney Gottlieb ordered the program halted. Then in 1973, CIA Director Richard Helms panicked and ordered the complete destruction of the MKUltra records. It wasn't until 1975, following the Church Committee investigations into intelligence abuses, that the surviving fragments of this massive program were finally exposed to the American public.
And that brings us to a deeply unsettling reality. Everything we've covered today is based only on the tiny fraction of documents, mostly obscure financial records, that somehow survived that 1973 purge. Given that the very architects of MKUltra actively destroyed the vast majority of the evidence, we are left with a chilling final thought for you to consider. How much of this harrowing history of human experimentation will remain forever hidden? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and always keep questioning what you learn.